So, one of the ongoing gags we always have, at least internally, whenever I decide to do a space heater chat, I guess no point really hiding that. It's that it usually happens on impulse and that the others who don't do the chat with me don't know about it until it pretty much goes up. And more often than not, it's of course James and myself. And then once in a while, Kevin comes in saying, "Wait, I didn't know you did that." And Kevin also mentions he has yet to do a space heater chat one-on-one with me.
I thought we did do one at some point.
Well, you did.
One-on-one.
We did a space heater, but it was all as a group, right?
Oh, I could have swore we did one-on-one, but my memory's foggy, so
Well,
I'll
so is mine. And
I'll take your word for it
you.
for now.
Yeah. Well, I've been wrong before. Just ask just about everybody in my life. So, as mentioned last week, there's a little bit of flux going on, a bit of changes going on as we reach this stage of the pandemic because I don't think it's about to end yet or at this point. So we are taping this on Monday afternoon, April the 4th. I had a little time on my hands. Kevin had a little time on my hands. Everybody else has a life. Well, you have a life too, Kevin. Um, I can only speak for myself. So Kevin had a little time on his hands today and was able to do this. And I'll take what I can get with the way, as I said, the schedule is. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on. We got about at least half an hour, I think, to chat. What do you want to talk about for a bit, Kevin? Is there like you went on? I know last week you were on vacation.
Yes, I was. My sister found a super cheap return flight from LA to Toronto for like dirt cheap. Like we're talking 2 digits. So then she asked me if I wanted to go to LA in Palm Springs, and I said, "You know what? Why not?" It's funny, not funny, but it's interesting in that LA was my last trip to the United States pre-pandemic as well. So
Was that for some sort of concert or something or a convention?
that was for KCON, yes, which is a K-pop slash Korean pop culture convention. And the main draw for me was that Mamamoo was going to perform there, and they are my favorite female K-pop group, and
They still are because
they
you
still
mentioned
are.
this before.
Yeah, actually, they're my
You
favorite K-pop group overall.
okay.
And
See,
yes,
I'll continue because I have just a K-pop anecdote afterwards.
now it wasn't just them. Numerous acts came to perform there as well. Most of them were up and coming. Some are more established, like Newest. So it was just really interesting to see uh, a bunch of performers at once, because the way they go about it is that they do 2 different nights where you'll see 6 or 7 acts do a mini set, anywhere from 3 to 5 songs, usually on average 3 to 4. So it was a great way to discover new acts, and I had a good time.
Become fan. Did some of those acts find new fans in you? A new fan in you, more specifically.
Oh yeah, a couple did. I like AB6. They were one of the ones who were there. That's a boy band. Another male K-pop boy band that was really popular and was the main draw for Saturday night was 17. They have a huge following, and it was funny to see them really drive the crowd into a frenzy with their theatrics. I was,
Mhm.
yeah, they won me over a little bit, I'd say.
Well,
Uh,
thought I'd ask.
Luna was really good too. They were a newer group at the time as well. There
Mm.
was like I think 11 of those girls or something. I don't remember. Whoever,
Well, it's that sounds so K-pop or even Asian pop, generally speaking, when we
yeah.
start to compare to to Japan. I know that there's a lot of differences. It's just I'm not into either of them enough to really start to know the differences
And with
between J-pop and
17,
K-pop.
17 has 13 boys in that group. But
Okay,
they're called
something's wrong here.
17. I don't.
Yeah, something's wrong here. If
Anybody
we're talking
who
their
knows the
age,
reason why can let us know in the comments of our website
or
or
email or
email, which
whatever.
will we'll give away those details at the end. Or if Mike wants to, he can give them out now.
Yeah, animeroundtable at gmail.com at anime roundtable. Okay. Well, the only anecdote I have in terms of K-pop was in the purgatory years that this podcast wasn't on. One of the things I got a little bit into was the old smartphone game Tap Tap Revolution. It was like, we were at the peak of those music rhythm games, and
Oh, okay.
smartphones attempted them. And I think the company that made Tap Tap Revolution, which was the most popular one that came out, or one of the original ones that came out for mobile phones, it was eventually bought out by EA, and then they basically killed it right after.
Why would they do
But
that?
I know there's a longer story, but that's how I remember it. And we are talking 10 plus years ago now.
Hmm.
But one of the feature songs, so after one update was a song called Two Different Tears by the Wonder Girls.
Oh, Wonder
At the
Girls.
time, you know the Wonder Girls,
I know of
right?
them. Yes.
Yes, and maybe I've told you this story before. I don't know.
My
Because I
friends
told us.
loved Wonder Girls back in
Okay,
university.
so you sort of know a little bit about
Yeah,
this.
my friends were entrenched in the second gen K-pop era. So that
That's
was Wonder Girls, SNSD, and Tiara, and all that.
okay. In the case of the Wonder Girls were one of the top groups at the time,
Yes.
arguably the top one. And they had a single called Two Different Tears. It was featured in Tap Tap Revolution. The version that the game used was an English version. Apparently, they recorded the song in at least 3 different languages: English, Korean, of course. And I think the last one was I think it was Mandarin. Don't quote me on that. I may have to find it again.
Yeah, it'd either be Japanese or Mandarin.
Okay. So that was the game. And it turned out, I played that particular stage so many times, my overall best score in the game was on Two Different Tiers. At the time, also within maybe a couple months of me finding this single, they actually went on a world tour, and that tour took them here to the Toronto area. They did a show in Mississauga, actually. They did it at the Living Arts Center near Square One.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, this was I don't know how big it was at the time. Obviously, those in the know were certainly eager for it. So that I remember, and I remember would have been curious to go, but I think I was working at the time
Uh,
of the concert. But I know that it was just them, and I think they were dancing and singing to the recorded versions. I don't think they had a live band at the time
mhm.
to do the concert. But I know it was a thing at the time. And as I said, we're talking circa, I think 2010, 2011
Oh wow.
when they did that. Obviously, the Wonder Girls are no longer around. They broke up years ago. But the
As it is with female K-pop acts,
mhm.
the
But
male
I think
acts are likely to stick around longer because
okay. So what's the over under on BTS? Sorry,
I
Nicholas.
think they'll stick. They re-signed.
Okay, so 4 more years, 4 more years.
At least I don't remember the terms of the contract. I don't. They normally don't divulge that to my knowledge, but I could
Um,
imagine it being at least 3 to 4 years. I I can imagine that, uh, at least some of those members could be, uh they could have stake in Hybe at some point or another. Hybe is now uh, the the parent company
band.
name
I was about to
of the
say the
company,
management, right?
formerly known as Big Hit Entertainment. So we'll see. I think they'll be around for a while.
Okay. So going back to my Wonder Years.
Wonder
Jeez,
Years. Wrong
Wonder
genre.
Girls story. Yeah, wrong title altogether. I mean, Kimagure Orange Road can be on the brain quite a bit, regardless. W- The one person I wanted to single out in all of this is Sun Yi, one of the members, obviously, of Wonder Girls. I think she's referred to as its what is this, former leader and main vocalist of the Wonder Girls. Okay,
Was Sunmi the leader of Wonder Girls? I didn't know that.
Min Sun Yi. Yeah,
Sunmi, right? Yeah, she's the one
Sun
that's
Yi.
actually
Sun Yi.
active.
Oh, no, not Sun Mi. I was saying Sun Yi.
Oh, Sun
I'll send
Yi.
you.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant
Yeah.
Sun Mi because I knew Sun Mi was pretty sure Sun Mi was part of Wonder Girls as well,
Oh, she was, yes,
but she
but
wasn't.
I was
I
referring
don't
to
think
Sun
she was as popular. But then she's the one that ended up having the successful solo career after the fact.
Yi. Okay,
She has good
no,
music.
because my point being, yeah, because Sun Yi is kind of gone into the background in recent years, and maybe of note is that she's very she was a missionary also in later years, and she met a Korean Canadian and they got married. She has settled in Burlington. They have she has a few kids. She has some kids now, and my understanding is she settled in Burlington. I don't know if she's still there, but I talked this over, like, one of my colleagues at the vaccine clinic when I worked there was is of Korean background,
Oh,
and she told me about, we talked a little bit about Asian pop culture, and I mentioned the Wonder Girls, knowing about them, and she told me that they caught up with Sun Yi in recent years, and that it was revealed that she lived in Burlington, which is about what, for people who don't know the area that well, it's about half an hour west of Toronto by car.
give or take.
That
Yeah,
take, yeah. So maybe a little more, but it's about a half hour. It's at least a roughly half hour drive outside of west of Toronto. It's somewhere in between Toronto and Hamilton. If people want to be able to start to know where Hamilton is, so Hamilton's like that symbolic halfway point between Toronto and Buffalo. So Burlington would be just before Hamilton, well, pretty much. So that's where they say she's lived, and with her Korean Canadian husband, and she has three. And looking at the wiki, which, it's wiki, but it does say she has three kids now.
that's cool.
So no, yeah, no, it's a nice story, and I think the two met while doing work in Haiti. I think in the aftermath of the earthquake back in, I think, 2010 it was.
Oh,
So there's the missionary work yeah, at the front there. But yeah, that's her story now, and she's obviously more or less lived a rather private life since then. So, but there's my little story. Not really much of a story, but okay. So that was the last visit you made, and on this visit, how was this trip from last week?
I
Like,
will say I enjoyed LA more than Palm Springs.
oh yeah, yeah,
And
that's right. You did Palm Springs as well.
that's because I am not a resort person.
Oh, okay. No, I think I understand where you're about to go with this.
So I don't find resorts appealing because My mindset is that if I wanted to just relax, I can just relax at home. I don't need to pay to go somewhere to relax. Well, nowhere far away, that is. I understand the appeal, but I prefer just going to different locations, discovering new things, discovering cool shops, uh, finding
Exploring,
food to
basically?
eat. Uh, that's not to say that Palm Springs and the surrounding area doesn't have those things. Like, we went to Joshua Tree National Park, and that was a pretty good time overall, despite the heat. But it is a very resort town.
Mm,
So for me, I enjoyed it. I made the best of it. I did find a cool little, uh, not really a department store, but it was a building that had 8 or 10 different boutiques. Some were clothing, some were painting, some were home decor. So that was a nice little treat, especially
mm.
because uh, you can find a lot of that stuff there, but finding stuff that caters to me was tough because most of the menswear stores there are very resort wear, which makes sense given the location. But yeah, they actually had a menswear store there called Bowie and Co. that carried more contemporary menswear that is more my alley.
Yeah, I know. You're the of the 5 of us, the most fashionable. So this is stuff you know you
I wouldn't
love.
say most. Like I want to say most
Well, as I
fashionable,
said,
but
in comparison to the others.
I guess so. It's
I mean, in the grand scheme, okay, granted, you're on the bottom, but you'd be more on the bottom, I guess. But in comparison to the bunch of us, the 5 of us who regularly do this show. So, how many days were we there? How many days was it?
we flew in Saturday morning and left the following Saturday
Like,
in the
oh,
morning.
roughly a week.
So it was about a
See,
week, yes.
I didn't know you were like knew you were taking this trip, but I just didn't know exactly how long. I thought it was a weekender thing, but no, it was longer than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
this I don't normally do long trips because my work situation normally didn't allow me to justify taking long trips. And usually these kinds of trips are tied to an event that I want to go to or an
Which it wasn't
exhibit.
in this case. Yeah.
In this case, this was not the case. So it was really just an opportunity for me to just, go out and do stuff in a place that I don't
Well,
normally live in.
it sounded like it was still, regardless, a good time just to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And I get it for the listeners. This is not really related.
Well,
Sorry.
I did some anime stuff there. I went
Anything from your
to
show?
Hmm?
Let's pull it in. Let's hear it.
So on our first day, we were in the suburbs. So we were in Torrance, California, which is south
Mhm.
of LA, and I don't know if it's like actually part of LA proper or if it's like a Markham or its own municipality. I don't recall, but uh, there were a couple of book offs in the area, so I was able
Well, now,
to check those out.
yes, even I would remember them.
The prize find for me was a complete set of the story of Koku on DVD.
You didn't have to pay an arm and a leg, did you?
I pretty much paid retail price for it, but it tends to go for a little more on eBay nowadays because it is out of print and it hasn't been license rescued yet. So, and I really do like that show, so I might actually give it a watch if I can make some time.
Ah, yeah, time. Always one of
Uh,
those.
but the book offs normally do do their research when it comes to out of print,
pricing these
like
things?
Blu-rays and stuff. Yeah, they usually
So
do.
and do you think they did their research on this one? At the very least, it sounds like
I
it.
think they did.
Those
Because if they didn't, it probably would have been like $30, like or $20, like all the other DVDs. But like yeah, some DVDs were actually more expensive than others. Like not every DVD was like $5, like you'd think it'd be. And then there's a lot of
oh,
Blu-rays there too, and a lot of manga, and a lot of figures, and even stuff like CDs and like soundtracks and even concert Blu-rays. They have those too, and a lot of Japanese manga as well. So it's the full gamut.
hmm, doesn't sound all that bad though. At least a nice little adventure in that sense. At least
Yeah,
as fans with fans.
yeah. In LA proper on Tuesday. Actually, wait. Before I get into that, uh, we did go to J Town or Japantown in the first night as well. I didn't make it in time for Anime Jungle, which is the predominant anime store in J Town. But I keep on saying J Town, but it's
I
uh,
know we have it because Toronto has its own J town, and it's really just little shops
mhm,
in an otherwise underused
yeah,
what would you call it, strip mall? Not really even a strip mall. It's just
it's like a
who
complex
am I?
more like it.
Yeah, a little complex. So that's a good way to put it, right? And it keeps changing a little bit. I know I've been told it's changed quite a bit from my last visit, but okay. Well, we'll talk. Let's talk a little bit GTA afterwards. But sorry.
But we ended up eating at Sushi Komasa, which is a very small Japanese run sushi place that had pretty good food, and the fish portions were pretty good, and not a lot of rice on the sushi, which is always appreciated. So that means the topping was the emphasis. We waited I think, yeah, almost an hour to get in, but yeah, it was worth
There
it.
was a lineup.
Yes.
You know what, as they say, if there's a lineup in front of places, you know they're probably quite good, or at least the thinking is they'd be good, if not if that's the
Yeah,
popular.
less a lineup, more of a wait list, and because we didn't have a phone number at the time for them to call us back with, like somebody had to stay at the place the whole time, so we would
Mm.
interchange between who was waiting while someone would go and explore Japantown because there's also like a central complex in Japantown where there's a lot of shops and like restaurants, so it was a good way to kill time in that sense.
Oh,
Anime Jungle was on Tuesdays when I finally made it over.
okay. You said it's a store, right?
It's like
I
4 or
I'm
5
not talking.
stores. They occupy
Oh,
like 4 or 5 different spaces in the mini arcade, and how it would work is that one store will sell just trading card games, and then one store would sell predominantly like uh like model kits, and then one store had the video games, and then another store had like your anime, manga, and general figures and general merchandise.
like a mini mall. It sounds like.
Yeah, they occupied the bulk of the first level of the arcade.
Well, it's easy appeal for really anybody into it. Kind of a mini. Well, I wouldn't say Akihabara or Nakano Broadway. That's probably unfair. That's probably not a great comparison, or is it? I don't know.
Mhm.
Never really, not having any real experience with those such places. But it's an easy appeal for that for you know our fandom, right?
Yeah.
So it's just we talk a lot about anime and manga and the industry and the media mix ecosystem constantly on this show. And I think there you see it kind of playing out right before your eyes because different sections of the different little stalls or sections devoted to one specific part of the mix. That's what it sounds. That's what I think of when you make that description.
Yeah, and yeah, a lot of people were there. It's a lot of young
Well,
people for sure.
yeah. If there's anybody who lives in Southern California, like, can enlighten me a little bit better. Not totally sure that's the right word, but I, tell me what type of place. I'm curious to know what type of place it is for local fandom in LA. I mean, Toronto has its obvious ones here. We've kind of mentioned them in the past, so I wonder what it would be there. J Town, I just mentioned. We just mentioned J Town, which is in Markham. On the topic of Markham, right?
Mhm.
Which is like, yeah, a more or less complex that has, well, it's flagshipped by a little supermarket, but there's other little places around it too. Some for books, some that have been known for cosmetics, little eateries, and
Yeah, I believe that's
bits and
Heisei
pieces.
Mart, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
it's Hasey Mart. Yeah, Hasey Mart is the supermarket that kind of anchors the place, and that's always been the mainstay.
Yeah,
But I know there's more to it now.
with J-Town here, it's I think the notable places now in J-Town are, Famu, which is the butcher there now
Hmm.
that also does wholesale for, several restaurants, if I'm not mistaken, and you would go there if you want your A5, A4 meats,
Mm, okay.
and if you want Wagyu from Texas or Japan or wherever.
They can be a connection regard at a point.
I guess so.
Okay.
Uh, the places I go to the most in J-Town are, Tanuki, which is a Yoshoku style Japanese restaurant.
I think I've heard that name. The description sounds familiar. They might have been featured in a blog TO
Yes, they
video
have
at the.
been. Uh, there's also a really good patisserie there called Yuzu no Ki,
Hmm.
which is oh, it's so good. And
Do you need a second to stop drooling?
no, I'm good.
Okay,
And
thanks.
there's another place that I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but they do like mochi there. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Let me look them up
Well,
quickly while you talk.
if, send the link.
It's Sasaki fine pastry. There you
Okay.
go.
Okay, fine pastry. Well, maybe that's easier if I just put up the entire. Does J Town have a website? It should,
I don't know if
shouldn't
they
it?
do actually.
We'll look it up then. If you are not familiar with it, or with the area, especially if you're not from Toronto, if you're from out of town, J Town is, as I said, it's in Markham. It's north of Toronto in the 404 Steeles area. So that's roughly northeast, I guess, towards the east.
A little bit.
And if you, yeah, and if it's a perfect spot to visit if you're visiting the corridor that's ultimate, or that part of the city, or that's ultimately anchored, or most notably anchored by Pacific Mall, because J Town is about a 5 minute drive west of Pacific Mall. So it's tough to miss because, well, you can miss it, but you know you've gotten too far if you find yourself passing over the 404.
Mhm.
If you're going west away from Pacific Mall, you know you've gone too far if you find yourself going over the 404 itself, the highway.
Yes. Uh
Just go back about one or two stoplights, and you'll be fine.
yeah. I will say with LA, just to go back on that briefly, I would say Animal Jungle is the anime store in LA. I don't know of any others that are to that scale anywhere, let alone in LA. There was a couple other stores that I went into. I didn't get to go into Anime Station. They were predominantly figure based store. There was a couple other stores that sold a lot of bootleg merchandise, which was pretty amusing.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, that sounds like early aughts Toronto in many
yes,
ways.
there's
I
also
didn't know that was still a thing, but okay.
also saw two or three different uh, independent boutiques that sold their own brand of clothing. I don't remember their names, but I thought that was pretty intriguing as well. Like pretty much just local clothing stores that cater to like the anime fan, so to speak. So like in terms of their designs. So it's always nice to see those kinds of stores thriving.
You always hope for little small businesses. I
Yeah.
think we've had this off the air type discussion about those type of things. You always cross your fingers for little small mom and pop, well, not really mom and pop, but certainly small businesses. And we've this has been kind of like one of those flagship discussions in the during the pandemic, supporting local, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, you hope you cross your fingers and hope to find something, worthwhile to help them. So,
Yeah.
hmm. Well, anything else to add, or that you might think that listeners will find interesting, or we're
Hmm.
pretty much done, or we're pretty much done the K and J pop experience for LA, at least this trip.
Two other quick highlights would be Afuri Ramen was good. They were in the more artsy district of LA, if I'm not mistaken, and they have this really nice yuzu broth ramen that really hit the
Well,
spot.
yes, I'd be curious. Like the experiences I have of yuzu, and they're actually kind of limited. It's like really interesting sour taste to it, but it has a slightly bitter finish at times.
Hmm.
But it's still, but not in a really off-putting way. Like that's my experience as I remember it with yuzu. It was a nice experience because I had that in a dessert
Hmm. We
in
went to
recent years.
another ramen place too, and we went to Daikokuya as well. Although we went to the Santa Monica branch this time around, not the one in Japantown. Uh, that place is pretty good too. Although I've had it before, so that time we went was to let my brother-in-law try it out. But I would say Offerty was pretty good.
Sure. Like when I re-listen to this, I'm gonna try and jot down all the names, and then we'll put links up to all these places.
Okay.
I'll do my best. I know I've been horrible with it lately, but I'll do my best.
And I would say my fashion highlight was Dover Street Market, which is a contemporary designer clothing store that's run by the Comme des Garçons group. I'm not
What is
sure
that
if
for
you're
sure?
familiar with that brand, Mike, but
No, I'm not. I mean, as I said, you're the fashion plate in comparison.
so
I can look it up.
wear
Oh, that one's familiar.
if you've ever seen young people wear shirts with a little bug-eyed heart as a logo,
Hmm.
like it's a heart and then you see two
Like,
little bug eyes on the
okay, that
heart. That's that's from Comme des Garçons play line, and that's their most commercial brand.
okay.
And then they do perfumes, they do accessories, but the more contemporary stuff would come from uh Comme des Garçons other lines, which that's where the creator of the brand, Rei Kawakubo, really flexes her creativity, and you see some really out there stuff from her other lines for both men and women. Yeah, some really crazy stuff at times.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or I know.
I'm a fan of the brand. I've owned a couple pieces here and there from them, as well as from Junya Watanabe, which is one of her proteges, who has his own line under Comme des Garçons. Uh,
Mhm.
and also you do see a bunch of stuff from the usual suspects, like your Prada, like your Gucci, like uh, what else? Balenciaga and Bottega Veneta, but you also do see a lot of contemporary stuff like Rick Owens and La Mer, among other brands. And yeah, it's a
Like the older school brands I recognize. These more contemporary ones I don't easily recognize.
mhm.
But, would you consider them up and coming brands or just something else altogether?
They're already established for the most part. It's just that uh, they're in the more contemporary sphere. So then, if you don't like actively seek them out, you just won't really know. It's
Okay.
I would say with Dover Street Market, it's always nice to go there, if only because they have really nice displays for their most of those brands at times, because usually they will collaborate with the brands themselves. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, how it works is that the brand, like representatives from those designer brands, will come in and create their own displays,
Mhm.
and it can be very visually. It's a visual treat. So even if I may not have the intention to spend money there, it's always nice to go in, take some photos, uh, and it really, a good visual display really can sway you to maybe trying something on. I would say.
Mm. Well, in the retail world, it's, retail displays are an art form in many ways,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I've seen little profiles on them and how much effort they put into that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, like, how the store picks and chooses which pieces to buy for their clientele, because in theory, LA is a very, you know, glitzy.
Well, there's something stereotypical about
Yeah,
it,
there's like
right?
a glitz and glamour element to LA at times. So then,
Mhm.
at least,
And there's some truth to it.
at least in terms of like the celebrity world, so some of their stuff leans towards that, but then they still have their own Comme des Garçons twist to them.
Hmm,
So yeah, it's really interesting to see that sometimes.
okay.
But yeah, I always like to go to Dover Street Market whenever I'm in a city that
You
has
visit.
them,
Okay. I get it.
especially the New York location. Oh, that's 7 stories. This was like 1 story, but it was like a pretty big space overall, whereas New York is like 6 or 7 stories of just a lot of stuff.
Literally on top of each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a hell of a week. That much I grant. The only thing I'm wondering, and I guess this is like as we start to pull back a little bit and start to conclude your little journey there, yeah, the family journey, because it was with your sister, and company. So, how was the COVID protocols in terms of getting to and from? Because I know that's like we hear all a lot about things being restrictions being lifted or light or loosened, and I know in terms of air travel, there's been a few things on that front. So, what was the experience like in terms of flying to and from Canada or between Canada and the States in this later stage COVID world?
You do need to conduct a test the day before you fly out.
Are we talking rapids or PCRs?
Any test, really. Any test that's approved by the CDC, which is the American equivalent of Health Canada. And we also had to fill out a specific form for LA as well,
Hmm.
saying that, oh, yeah, we don't have COVID symptoms. And that's its own site. But then you have to do the test, and then you actually have to upload it onto Air Canada's website. Like, pretty much
Hmm.
when you check in, it's either you check in like online and it might force you to go through prompts, or you click a link on your email saying like, "Oh yeah, you need to do all these things before you could fly in," and then you just do them.
That's good then.
With the return flight,
Oh, yes.
uh,
Well, getting out might be the easier part of the equation, isn't it?
yeah,
Especially when it comes
because
to Canada.
we just made it in time for Canada not requiring a PCR test or an antigen test on the way back. All we needed to do was to download the ArriveCan app and go through the prompts there.
Mm. Was it so? From your experience, did you find it complicating, or was it fairly straightforward?
More or less straightforward.
Your experience was okay.
Going in is a bit less straightforward, but still not hard. Going back was simple.
Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe I said anecdotally, I we just it's just been well at least profiled that some people have had issues. But then again, you don't hear about people getting it having smooth transitions here, right?
Yeah, we because
People only hear about the tough
because
parts.
yeah, April 1st was when Canada decided that they no longer needed a PCR test or an antigen test coming into the country because we need the money.
Yeah,
It's what
yeah,
I
and they
suspect.
want you. Well, and then the tourist dollars, I guess,
Boy,
other
do we need
stuff.
it.
Hmm. Oh, I think everybody, any tourist destination would appreciate it, regardless whether it's in Canada, U.S., or otherwise in the world. But I guess when at the end of last week with James, we I acknowledged that this as things were, restrictions were loosening and things were opening up, and some of us were getting back to normal. The Metrolinx, the company that runs the GO trains and the Up Express, the commuter rail services in the Greater Toronto area, they've said they've been expecting an uptick in ridership over the next little bit because a lot more offices are reopening. So as I said, the thing is, I'm loath to call all the changes that I'm personally facing in relation to this podcast. I'm hesitant to call this the end of the pandemic series. It's just that the way we're going to be doing the show for the next little while, just like the pandemic itself, is just slightly changing.
Mhm. Well, because you're
Like it's just like
well, yeah, you're back to work now.
back at my regular job, we and I want to give a quick shout out before as I start this part. Quick shout out to the people who run at Toronto Public Health, who I worked for on and off since the summer. When I keep mentioning the vaccine clinics I worked at, they were under Toronto Public Health with the city of Toronto, and specifically I worked at one that's actually part of that 10 minutes south of the Anime North complex because it was pretty much along the way. And as I said, they were good people who are there, and they're still there, who are doing their best to help people weather what's going on. Even though the storm, I was about to say weather the storm, but the storm is much calmer these days. Although you do hear a lot about this sixth wave that's running now, and an Omicron variant that seems to be running well right now.
Well,
Although I don't know what to make of it, and really, I guess I want to read up a little more, but I don't know how much that'll derail what's going on right now,
well,
like any of the things going on.
well, first of all, Mike, thank you for your service. Truly.
I give it more to the nurses, by the way. I give it more to the nurses who were working that place. I just did the crowd control.
And my other point would be, you know, I don't think that we should have dropped the mask mandates or the vaccination passports.
Okay.
I didn't
Yeah.
see any
I
need for them to do that other than for Dougie over there to appeal to his right leaning base.
I was about to say political gain, yes. For some brownie points.
And and
And
as much as I hate saying this, I a part of okay, I don't how do I put this? It's kind of weird wishing for things to regress, but I will say that if if we regress to the point where it affects Doug Ford's chances for reelection, then I'll take it. Because I do suspect he will win. Even with all the shit
he
that's happened, even with all the with all this stuff with, you know, how we've handled this entire pandemic, and now he's trying to win voters back by giving me and everybody else refunds on their license plate stickers and making two of the highways toll free, but not the one that really matters. And it's because
407 is its own story all by the
sorry,
way.
what?
But the 407 is,
Yeah,
that's in
that's
and of itself.
yeah, that's a forbidden tale of its own indeed, but fuck you, Mike Harris. It's but it's the sad thing is that people have short-term memories and
Yeah.
they know that. The conservatives know that. So that's why by trying to appeal to the layman, to the common folk that may not be as politically savvy, they want to try and win those people to vote for them. And it's unfortunate that we don't have an opposition with a leader charismatic enough to combat him.
See, that's I was about to bring up the whole, you know, voter splitting and really fragmented opposition that's out there right now. There isn't a clear cut favorite amongst the anybody who would be opposition to Doug Ford and the progressive conservatives, and that's probably why their chances of getting reelected. And for reference, the Ontario provincial election is set for, I think, June 1st. Is it?
I believe so. It is June,
So
yes.
very early June, probably June 1st. So so the idea that he's trying to gain points in ahead of that is not unfounded. I mean, it's a fair discussion. It's a fair debate. But as I said, you look at the option, you look at the opposition, and it's fairly fragmented. And I think that's where that's where the ruling party ultimately will have a chance. But I don't know. Give me a last thought. I don't want to get too far into it because
Yeah.
there's a few other things I want to talk about before we go, and we're almost an hour in.
Yeah. It's I don't have much else. I'm just bracing myself for another conservative.
4 more years. 4 more years.
Fuck, man.
Well, I mean, we had we had the center left liberals before then for more than a decade. So, let's see how things bear out in the next little bit, and keep anybody out there, just keep yourself informed.
And there's the whole bypass thing, that highway that they want to build, and that's another
Oh,
story
that,
too.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, I know that
Ugh.
I get it. Ontario, yours to discover if you can afford it. Um, do you want me to talk about where I am back at work just for a second? Since I mentioned that yes, the things are changing because of my regular work status, and I've never okay. I
Yeah, sure.
didn't. I kind of sidestepped the question, the idea, the talk about it last week with James, but I never really hit it because, or I stopped hiding where I worked because I know I brought it up with Angela during the very first official Space Heater chat we did right back in August of 2020, because we got into this discussion about repetitive movement issues, which Angela mentioned in her work, right? And I revealed for the first time that I'm a longtime casino worker. So I started working cards, and the idea of repetitive stress injuries I fully understood because I faced a little bit of that pre-pandemic in my arms and shoulders. So that's my regular job. I do work in a casino, and you might imagine it's pretty close to the Anime North compound. Trust me, if you're in the area, you'll be able to figure out exactly where it is. So that's where I was recalled to a couple weeks ago. Um, I was told it's I was told they had a couple of like every business that's trying to ramp themselves back up at in the latter stage pandemic. It's had its issues in doing so. It's been in that mode since on and off since the summer, and I know by the time I returned there last week, just before the end of March, or 2 weeks ago, I know that a lot of things had been smooth, but there's still issues, and it shows a little bit. But I know that they're just trying to weather themselves as best they could. But on a personal level, it's good to be back. But I know that it's a casino, it's a 24/7 business, so that's what's affecting things here. That's what's affecting this show because, frankly speaking, the we're just looking for ways for our schedules to match to be able to regularly do shows and do other things. And so for myself to be to try and keep myself more up to speed on things. So we'll bear just so that's why I asked people last week to bear with us for just a little while we figure out the new groove and new routine for the future of uh of the roundtable. And trust me, it's not ending. We just a few things to figure out. The best we could do this week was just yet another space heater chat. So I apologize for anybody hoping that we're hoping for episode 65 right now. Not yet, but we'll get there. But that all said, since we did a space heater last week, Kevin, or just looking back and looking ahead, is there one thing? I'll give you the floor. Is there one thing from the space heater chat that caught your attention that James and I talked about? Or is there something you're looking ahead to in our fandom in the anime, manga, video game world that you think you're keeping an eye on?
Huh. Well, let's see here. Uh, I didn't catch the discotheque panel until the very end, but I did end up rewatching it because they did replay it after because it was up for at
Uh,
least a little bit. I don't know if it's
it's
still up,
probably who knows. They don't. It's limited time.
but
Let's
I
put it
did
that way.
watch it. Uh, Pretty
One
cool of them
takeaway.
to relicense Digimon. Well, not relicense, but pretty cool of them to license the Digimon TV series. Uh,
Was there ever a Japanese release in the past, like a
no,
Japanese language release?
no,
So this is going to be this seemingly would be a first for North America,
yes,
at least North America.
and uh, it's cool for them to make use of Astro Res after all. After it didn't happen with Project Echo because Robert Wood had found the
Yeah,
masters,
yeah, because of the master discovery.
and it makes sense for them to put the dub on its own disc because of how the cuts happened, how that show was edited. So it'll be like Monk Hollow Knights, where I believe they'll do the dub first, and they will put out a sub only set afterwards.
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay,
I believe
didn't
that's
know
happening with
not all
Metabots as
involved.
well. That's how they're going to do it with
Uh,
Metabots. So
Something for the nostalgia and something for the true collectors out there. I
yeah,
think.
hey, because of the logistics of how those shows are created at the time, I'd say that's a good resolution. Let's
People will pay
see.
for it, but people will pay, but people will probably pay willingly too.
Oh yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
those were benchmark. That was a benchmark title in its day
Yeah.
for, for fandom. I mean, I'm too old to probably appreciate it, but I know younger generations, more recent fans would have a better appreciation. Not
Mhm.
more recent, but those that came in that period, in the aughts period.
Well, was Violence Jack a relicense? It was it one of their previous DVD only releases that then they're reissuing on Blu-ray, or was that a brand new license? That I don't recall.
I do not recall either, so I'm not going to make an assumption either
I
way.
just loved how when they announced that they played that 10-second clip with like a fucking shit, fuck shit, fucking like that. I couldn't help but laugh out
And
loud.
then they said, and they said afterwards, that's about the only thing we can safely show.
Yep. Oh
And then
man.
yeah, and then I went on, and then I shot myself in the foot with the whole mosaic line.
It's almost as iconic as that one Angel Cop clip where the guy just bursts in and just like shoots the whole place up and everything. Oh man.
Okay, well,
And Kakaishi was announced as well, I believe, because that was initially a streaming only arrangement.
so that caught your attention.
Yeah. Fantastic series. Uh Unfortunately the full manga was never adapted, but it really is
Well,
criminally underrated.
we're at the stage where where one thing can ultimately help the other. Like you like to think that if one part of the media mix makes itself popular, then there'll be a request to see the other parts of the media mix of a certain IP. That's where I think you're hoping we're at that stage. I wouldn't say this would be a
Oh
test,
no, we are at that stage for new shows.
or at least
100%.
newer titles. But older titles, could that be helped?
Normally through TikTok nowadays,
So anything can happen.
because that brought forth a lot of fans for several different shows, because different manga and anime TikTokers would, you know, display clips or panels of the anime or manga that they're displaying. And that's why Nana got popular again after so many years. That's why Mars got popular again after so many years. That's why Beck became popular again after so many years.
Yeah, I wonder how that guy who ran off with with the DVD set I sold to the Nomanoichi feels about that.
Oh. And you're seeing it
I sold it for
now
what it
with, sorry, what?
I mean, I know I sold it off for what I thought was a good price at the time, but I think it's appreciated a little more since then.
For which one? Nana?
Back.
Beck. I
Maybe,
haven't
maybe
looked
not.
it
I don't
up.
know.
I haven't looked up pricing for Beck in a while. Uh,
Okay. Anyway, give me a last
um,
thought.
Also, but yeah, you're seeing it with, I'll give you two thoughts, but you see it now with a lot of new shows where the anime will come out and then the manga just becomes like hard to find because it just sells through entirely, and then if the publishers didn't plan a reprint in anticipation of that, then you're going to be waiting a while, because uh, one of the last hits of this past winter anime season was My Dress Up Darling,
Oh yes, well, which I've yet to like. I mean, I now it's now in my queue, by the way, in my Crunchyroll queue.
which did get its second season confirmed, and it's hard to find the manga now. I believe that is a Square Enix title, if I'm not mistaken, and yep, pretty hard to find that at retail right now.
Supply chain issues,
Yep.
less out of print, just supply chain issues.
Yeah. It makes me wonder what's
Okay.
going to happen with Chainsaw Man when that anime comes out, and same with Spy Family, which is coming out pretty soon too. Like, I think it's going to come out this
That's your
week on
that's your
Crunchyroll. And then speaking of
yeah,
Crunchyroll, yep, not surprised that they pulled that act of
the ads.
the ads. Yep. Think it
I know
was,
because I know you started going pirate flag emojis with me afterwards.
well, yeah. So like I've said this before. I almost never watch Crunchyroll just because I almost never watch anime nowadays. But so this doesn't really affect me personally. It sucks for you know the younger fans who can't justify paying for a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription, or they can't convince their parents to pay for it. But it's okay because they're going to find other ways to watch it anyway. And a lot of those young people already do regardless, to be honest. Those
Well,
anime
that's
sites
part of
exist still and they're thriving.
yeah, yeah.
And but you know what? I don't blame Crunchyroll for doing that. They see they did the math as you guys talked about last week.
Yeah. Well, more James than me, but yeah,
Yeah, like
this is a calculated decision. No thing. These things aren't necessarily like they don't. The decisions aren't made in a vacuum.
and it sucks for us up
And
here.
they'll see something that we don't, that we are biased for not wanting to see.
Yeah, and it sucks for us up here because they already blocked a lot of that content to us in the first place without paying. So then Canada's has to pay to watch almost everything on that site, which
So well,
blows.
which blows. But I was about to say, then what really changes for
It's like you
Canadians?
can't tell me that the ad revenue is so bad. Like it can't be that bad. Even when you compare it to like tiny ass countries that also have Crunchyroll, like really we're worse than them when it comes to ad revenue. Like I just find that so hard to believe. Ah,
I know I have something to say. I just know there's a thought that comes to my mind when you say that, and the thought is NFL. But maybe that I have to flesh that out and think about that a little more.
but yeah, it
Okay.
sucks because this really doesn't affect most of my friends because most of them just pirate anyway. And these
Yeah.
are people with
It doesn't.
well-paying jobs too.
Well, and for me, it doesn't affect me because
You're,
I have a
yeah, you have
subscription
a
anyway.
subscription,
Willing to pay that.
and I don't have a
Uh,
subscription just because I just don't watch any anime, so there's no point
yeah.
in me
I
paying for
mean,
it. But uh,
well, I'm willing to pay, but I can't say I've gotten value out of it because, frankly, I haven't had time.
yeah,
But
and
but I do try. I do try, and hopefully, I'll have a little bit more time in the near future.
this is why I avoid
But
subscription services when I can help it.
yeah, I know that's always the temptation with these type of things, and it's not just entertainment, but gyms too,
But
or other things.
and yeah, them doing away with the Funimation brand makes sense. Obviously, Crunchyroll was the more popular brand. It was the more global brand.
And it's probably the one that, well, I said it's we're like James and I are puzzled, but would have preferred the Funimation brand, but we're not that demographic.
I feel like I think my preference. Well, not I think, but well, I do think this. My preference would have been you use Crunchyroll as the streaming, and then you would keep Funimation for the home video releases. But that's just
That would,
me talking out of nostalgia because I'm
yeah,
also like you guys in that I was familiar with all these companies back in the day because this was when I actively followed the industry because I followed it pretty much as James did back in the early 2000s and uh buying all these DVDs when I was in high school, saving up money for months to buy one DVD with 4 episodes on them for like $22 because I would, try and find them for as cheap as I could.
yeah. Which I was about to say that was a deal at the time.
Yep, that was a deal at the time. Sometimes you would hope for like the right stuff sale where you would pay $18 and then the conversion kicks in so it would be 22, or sometimes even what's his face? Not Suncoast. Starstruck would sometimes have okay prices, or sometimes 1 million would have okay prices when they were still actively selling that stuff. So, yeah, kind of nostalgic for it, but I think it was for the best.
Yeah, well, on a business decision, I'm not faulting the call.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about it a little more.
End of an era for Funimation though, in one sense.
Oh, it is. It is. It is. And I guess as we'll talk more about the phase out as it continues, I guess.
Mhm.
All right.
I'm done.
So for me, Yeah, for me, there isn't really too much to add that I want to to bring up because I know that leads to an even longer discussion. Yes, the PS stuff, the PlayStation stuff, I'm still digesting it, so give me some time. I know that announcement was made.
That's a whatever for me because I
Yeah,
don't
I
play
think it
video
might be
games on Sony anymore.
yeah, because well, this is I think this might be as much like my first blush is saying it's just to be able to keep everybody keep their current user base more firmly in there, just to keep them in there, have that give them that option, even though it when you compare it with Xbox with the Xbox passes, probably there's more of that Xbox offers, just a little more, but just enough to keep people firmly entrenched in the PlayStation ecosystem. But let me take a longer look at that and ask around and get some more thoughts on that. It's just yeah, that's about the only thing that's stuck out to me in the last week. And then there's just this hope that I can give myself time to do more things. I'll tell you this much: the
Mhm.
one reason I have not like the only my video game playing is still not good right now. I'm still on just playing the odd time Streets of Rage 4, but I haven't really played in the last week. And I haven't started any other games, and I think part of it is because I want to start sharing that with regular with well, not regular, but sharing that on Twitch streams because I
Okay.
play a couple of other games, and I've bought a couple games on sale, at least download wise. Like Bomberman, the most recent Bomberman was there for like $7 on Play,
Okay.
and I want to because I saw in the clinic some they played video games and they played an old school Bomberman game before the clinic opened, and everyone was just having the guys were just having fun trying to blow each other up.
Good old Bomberman.
Yeah, so I found the most recent version and it's there, and I just want to give myself time to I guess I don't know, should I want to start streaming while playing them, or maybe I should just play them and then I can share what I found out later on when I actually do start streaming them. I think that'll be more the case, but we'll see.
Sometimes it's just better to just do it. Just
Just
hook
yeah,
it
once
up,
again hit the record button.
just
Yeah,
stream it. Even
and
y
just have a little fun.
to e
Just don't make it a production, right?
yeah, like, you do it just for the sake of testing it,
Or yeah,
and then, you just
maybe
play and maybe someone joins, who knows? But I
yeah, but who
know,
cares?
and I know you wouldn't be doing it necessarily to be, like, a mega successful streamer, you're just doing it just for fun, but
Well,
so, yeah.
just like this podcast, just for posterity and see if anybody else can enjoy watching. Just for my own enjoyment, really.
Mhm.
Which probably should be the biggest reason most people should do things. Anyway, but the problem is, well, time is a thing, and I know we have to almost cut this short. We're over an hour in. I didn't quite intend for that, and I have to go off. We have to end this in a bit because honestly, well, you know, I have to go to work. I have to rest up and go to work. It is an overnight shift. So, I do have to make a living so I can pay for the things that we talk about here. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's just the way it is, you know, but at least we had time to do it. So, thanks for the time, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Um, so as I said, this is just something we want to throw up just before, and then we'll see what we can do to be able to do a proper episode 65. But until then, well, that's all we have for this space heater chat. So if you have any questions, comments, if you want to answer some of the questions we were asking earlier in this hour, um, animeroundtable@gmail.com is our email address. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Anime Roundtable. Animeroundtable.com is our really badly up to date website. Stuff changes coming, hopefully very soon. Our podcast website, animeroundtable.captivate.fm. That's a new one we have to add. And then we're on Twitch, twitch.tv/anime roundtable, and YouTube. Probably, well, yeah, I can't really mention how to express that channel. We'll try and put up links as best we could. So And since you're listening to this as a podcast, wherever you're listening to this, hopefully you'll give us a review, and hopefully that'll help us, find more listeners in the near future. Always hoping for. What are we hoping for, Kevin?
A 5-star review.
As always.
Or just any review, really, but
Yeah, just anything that says you're breathing. But as I said, but at the rate things we're going, we'll try and put up something on an almost weekly basis. But in any event, wherever you're listening to this or wherever you're hearing this, just subscribe or follow us on all the platforms we said we're on, so you're aware that we put up something new. But that's about it for the last 70 minutes. So thanks for the time for listening, and then hopefully next time we're on, it isn't a space heater chat, it's actually episode 65. Talk to you then.
See you later, everybody.